Some things are just completely and utterly terrible with absolutely no redeeming qualities, such as the militant jihadist group ISIS, the far-right German Nazi Party of 1920 to 1945, and the actor, comedian, singer, writer, producer, and television host James Corden. Some football transfers are the same. Just take Christian Benteke's 2015 move from Aston Villa to Liverpool for £32.5 million. Benteke had scored 42 goals in 89 games for Villa, all but ensuring their survival in the Premier League for 3 successive seasons. Without him, sure enough, they were relegated and finished bottom of the Premier League. Liverpool, meanwhile, slipped from a 6th place finish without Benteke to 8th with him leading their line, and Benteke himself could only manage 9 goals in 29 Premier League matches at Anfield before being sold after just a single season. Last month, in light of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's early success at Barcelona and Arsenal's uptick in form following his departure, I made a video taking a look at 7 transfers that worked out for everyone involved: the buying club, the selling club, and the player themselves. That video did pretty well, and most of you seemed to enjoy it, but it was all a bit too cheery and light for the end times that we are currently living through. Yes, as a number of you pointed out in the comments, far better to take a look at transfers that ended in a cacophony of pain, fury, and regret for absolutely everyone involved. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? So that is exactly what we're going to do. Here are 7 transfers that didn't work out for anyone involved. 7th, Alexis Sanchez to Manchester United. Chile's all-time leading appearance holder and record goal scorer, at one time, Alexis Sanchez was the best player in the Premier League. Indeed, throughout the entirety of Sanchez's 3.5 seasons at Arsenal, he was absolutely outstanding. Sanchez wasn't just Arsenal's most talented player, with the possible exception of Mesut Ozil, he was routinely among their hardest working as well. A talismanic figure, Sanchez was explosive on the ball and industrious off it, and without his 80 goals in 166 games at Arsenal, it is difficult to imagine quite how far the Gunners might have fallen in Arsene Wenger's final years at the club. Well, I suppose it's not that difficult. They'd probably have fallen about as far as they did after Arsene Wenger and Alexis Sanchez left the club. So, 8th. In January 2018, with just 6 months left on his deal at the Emirates, Sanchez joined Manchester United with Henrikh Mkhitaryan heading in the opposite direction. On the face of it, Manchester United had signed one of the best players in the Premier League who had come close to joining their local rivals without paying a transfer fee, whilst offloading someone that they didn't want anymore. Meanwhile, Arsenal had ensured that Sanchez didn't leave for nothing and managed to sign someone who had been perhaps the best playmaker in all of Europe just 18 months earlier. The reality, however, was something quite different. Sanchez might not have cost Manchester United a transfer fee, but he did cost them a £6.7 million sign-on fee, £5 million in agent fees, and he became the best paid player in the Premier League, which massively disrupted their squad. What's more, he was inexplicably terrible at Old Trafford. The aggressive, explosive, and phenomenally talented Sanchez of only weeks ago seemed to shrink tenfold in a Manchester United shirt. In the end, Sanchez cost Manchester United a whopping £29,000 per touch of the ball during his time at the club, and his disastrous signing has come to define the club's brainless recruitment policy in recent years. Arsenal lost by far their best player, effectively for nothing, given the fact that Henrikh Mkhitaryan did very little in North London before joining Roma on a free. And the deal was also a disaster for Sanchez and Mkhitaryan, on a personal level, from a footballing perspective at least, the former of whom has never been the same player since that move, even if it did make him unfathomably wealthy, and Inter Milan are now reportedly considering terminating his contract with them. All round, just a terrible piece of transfer business where the only real winners were the agents. 6th, Michael Owen to Newcastle United. I suspect that this might be a slightly controversial inclusion, though not as controversial as a couple of others that made my shortlist that I will mention at the end, including the one in the thumbnail, but I found it tough to find many winners from Michael Owen's 2005 return to English football. Capable of becoming the greatest English footballer of my lifetime, and quite possibly of all time were it not for a string of muscle injuries, Owen was already a long way past his peak when he signed for Real Madrid in 2004, despite the fact that he was still only 25. Owen scored 16 goals in 45 games for Real Madrid, with many of those appearances coming off the bench, and that was enough to make him Real Madrid's second highest scorer, above Raul but behind Ronaldo, during his solitary season at the Santiago Bernabeu. In spite of his injuries, Owen was still good enough to play for any team in England, so the fact that he signed for Newcastle United in a club record deal worth £16.8 million, well, that was headline news. For Newcastle fans, the thought of a Shearer and Owen strike partnership was edge of the seat stuff, and enough to contemplate dreams of a return to the Champions League. Meanwhile, Real Madrid got a big fee for their unsettled Englishman. When Owen actually played for Newcastle, he was one of the best players at the club. Unfortunately, he only managed to play 79 games in 4 seasons due to injuries, whilst being in receipt of an enormous salary. And in his last season, he allegedly refused to play in the final game of the season through fear of getting injured and therefore not being able to join anyone on a free over the summer, which Newcastle lost, meaning that they were relegated as Owen departed on a free. Real Madrid lost a potent forward, and no one in their squad scored as many goals as Owen had the previous season, even with limited minutes, in the 2005-06 campaign, as they slipped much further behind Barcelona in the race for the La Liga title. Owen himself, well, he said that he never even wanted to sign for Newcastle in the first place, and his apathy, admittedly, combined with an unfortunate injury record, perhaps showed at St James's Park. Though he went on to have some good moments at Manchester United, he would never play at anything like the level that he had produced even at Real Madrid ever again. 5th, David Bentley to Tottenham Hotspur. This one was a real car crash. David Bentley was frequently dubbed as the next David Beckham, a right-sided midfielder and England international with a lovely right foot, whose specialities were primarily whipping balls into the box and taking free kicks. Sound familiar? He was even called David and had the initials DB. Following the setback of being let go by Arsenal, Bentley became a key man at Blackburn Rovers, where he flourished in 3 excellent seasons under Mark Hughes, as Rovers finished 6th, 10th and 7th in the Premier League. Bentley's form, which had seen him start to get regular game time for England by the 2007-08 season, also attracted the attention of his former club's bitter North London rivals. Tottenham snapped Bentley up for a fee of £15 million, with the potential to rise to £17 million, back when that was actually quite a lot of money, rather than the amount that most Premier League teams spend on a 4th-choice goalkeeper. Despite a bright start to life at Spurs, which included a stunning volley against Arsenal from more than 40 yards out, Bentley's performances rapidly entered into a state of terminal decline. Bentley has since revealed that, whilst he found the more carefree dressing room environment at Blackburn to be perfectly suited to his personality, the more regimented and professional approach at Tottenham stripped him of his love of the game. Without Bentley, Blackburn dropped from 7th to 15th and would soon be relegated. Meanwhile at Spurs, Bentley rapidly became an enormous waste of resources who offered absolutely nothing. And for the player himself, Bentley's experience at Spurs led him to retiring when his contract ended, aged only 29. The next David Beckham, he was not. But Bentley now runs 6 restaurants and spends most of his time in Marbella, whilst Beckham is shilling for a World Cup built by slaves on behalf of a human rights abusing state in the Middle East, despite being the richest footballer to have ever lived. So, swings and roundabouts, I suppose. 4th, Socrates to Fiorentina. Broadening our horizons just a little, from Marbella, Brazilian legend Socrates is widely regarded as having been one of the most gracious and gifted midfielders to have ever played the game. Socrates played football like he had been born with a ball at his feet, yet he claimed that he only played the sport at all because it allowed him to buy petrol and beer. When he didn't have a ball at his feet, Socrates tended to have a book to hand, having been named after the Greek philosopher Socrates by his parents, who were both intellectuals. Socrates followed in his parents' footsteps, earning the nickname Dr. Socrates during his career after he graduated in medicine while still playing the game, and also due to his increased involvement in politics. Unabashedly left-wing, Socrates was a vocal critic of Brazil's right-wing military dictatorship, which had taken power in 1964 in a coup that was backed by the United States. At Corinthians, Socrates sought to create a football club that was built around his own set of ideals, nicknamed Democracia Corinthiana, which not only had a significant impact upon Brazil's political discourse, it also helped Corinthians to lift successive Campeonato Paulista titles. Socrates left Corinthians in 1984, age 30, in a move to Fiorentina after a bill to restore presidential elections in Brazil was voted down. Brought in due to an injury to Fiorentina captain Giancarlo Antonioni, Socrates did not find a club that was moulded in his image in Florence. His manner irritated some, his drinking and smoking others, and all of the above in the case of Argentina captain Daniel Passarella, who was also at Fiorentina at the time. Socrates lasted just a single season in Serie A before returning to Brazil with Flamengo. The move was a very costly mistake for Fiorentina, a miserable experience for Socrates himself, and Corinthians lost not only their best player but the person who their club's culture had been built around. Third, Juan Sebastian Veron to Manchester United. I was extremely reluctant to include two transfers with the same buying club in this 7, since there were so many outstanding candidates on my shortlist and there was really no need to. But when push came to shove, I just couldn't leave either Alexis Sanchez or Juan Sebastian Veron's transfers to Manchester United out. It is certainly no secret that Veron was a marvellous footballer, among the most gifted midfielders of the past 20 to 25 years, and good enough technically to play for any football club, in any era, anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, something about England or the Premier League, or both, just didn't seem to suit Veron's personality or style of play. Perhaps it was the language or the customs. Others have suggested that it might have been the pace of the play in the Premier League and the less time that particularly midfielders are afforded on the ball. Whatever it was, despite Manchester United players often describing Veron as having been outstanding in training, he could not carry that form over into games, and his best performances for Manchester United came in Europe. Manchester United paid a British record £28.1 million for Veron, almost doubling the previous record, so Veron's signing was on a scale that is easily comparable to that of someone like Paul Pogba in 2016, which, incidentally, is another transfer that at least didn't work out for the player and the buying club, and the buying club was Manchester United, with the selling club being a little bit more debatable. I tell you, he looks a bit different in that photograph there, Paul, doesn't he? I'm not even entirely convinced that's him. Lazio fell from 3rd to 6th without Veron, as compatriot Hernan Crespo's goal tally fell substantially. Manchester United would end up selling Veron for around half what they had paid for him, and Veron not only flopped at Manchester United, he was even worse after that £15 million move to Chelsea. It is a real shame that this one didn't work out, but boy oh boy, did it not work out. Second, Mario Balotelli to Liverpool. Some of these transfers, like Veron to Manchester United or Michael Owen to Newcastle, did seem at the time like, if not smart, then at least very understandable pieces of transfer business. You can see in some kind of alternate universe how they might have worked out very differently and have been an enormous success. The same cannot be said, I don't think, of Mario Balotelli's 2014 transfer to Liverpool, which always seemed, to me at least, to be doomed into having disastrous consequences for everyone involved. Liverpool, just as a reminder, had sold Luis Suarez in the summer of 2014 for a club record fee to FC Barcelona. Suarez had not only just had what was probably the greatest single season any Liverpool player has ever had in the 2013-14 campaign, in which he scored 31 goals in 33 Premier League matches, despite not taking penalties. He was also relentlessly hardworking, nasty, aggressive, and explosive. He gave defenders headaches in a variety of different ways, whether that be through his talent, finishing, harrying, or, just taking a bite out of their arm. There is one thing that Mario Balotelli had in common with Suarez, a dreadful disciplinary record, but that was about it. Make no mistake, Balotelli is immensely talented, but he is hardly renowned for his work rate or for running the channels. In an energetic Liverpool side under Brendan Rodgers, Balotelli stood like a statue with about as much awareness of what was going on around him as most actual statues have during his time at Anfield. Balotelli scored just 1 goal in 16 Premier League games for Liverpool before returning to AC Milan on loan. He cost Liverpool, who slipped from 2nd to 6th during his only season at the club, £16 million, and he has never played for a genuine super club since. Balotelli joined Nice on a free transfer in 2016. At age 31, he now plays for Adana Demirspor alongside Brit Asamoah in the Turkish Super League. First, Darko Panchev to Inter Milan. The greatest absolute disaster class of a transfer for everyone involved that I am aware of. I challenge you all in the comments at the end of this segment to tell me of a transfer that worked out even worse for everyone involved than Darko Panchev's 1992 move from Red Star Belgrade to Inter Milan. I am sure that one exists, but I can't imagine that there are too many. The most prolific striker in the so-called Soviet bloc, or Eastern Bloc, during the 1980s and early 1990s, Darko Panchev scored 96 goals in 156 games for his boyhood club Vardar in North Macedonia, followed by 97 goals in 115 games for Serbian giants Red Star Belgrade. Panchev led Red Star to 3 Yugoslav First League titles in 3 seasons in Belgrade, along with 1 Yugoslav Cup, 1 Intercontinental Cup, and, most famously of all, 1 European Cup, as Red Star became only the 2nd Eastern European club to be crowned as European champions. Panchev won the European Golden Shoe that season and finished as the Ballon d'Or runner-up. In 1992, the Soviet Union was dissolved and Yugoslavia was broken up into 8 separate republics. Suddenly, Eastern Europe's star players were snapped up by Western European teams, and none were more sought after than Darko Panchev. Inter Milan saw off the competition of both Real Madrid and Barcelona to sign Panchev for an enormous £7 million fee, and the North Macedonian marksman bagged a hat-trick on his debut at a brace the following week. He would go on to score only 5 more goals, and he would only play 27 more games for the Italian Giants, going on to describe his move to Inter Milan as the greatest mistake of his life. No doubt Panchev's struggles were, in part, due to the difficulties of scoring goals in Serie A, which was the most defensive league in Europe at the time, but he felt Inter did not understand his game when they signed him, and that his teammates pressured their manager into starting compatriot Salvatore Schillaci ahead of him as part of their campaign against foreign players. Inter essentially wasted £7 million on the best striker in Europe by asking him to play a role that he didn't know how to, and then not playing him at all. Panchev's career never recovered, and he was retired by the age of 32. Meanwhile, Red Star went from being European champions to failing to win their own domestic league over the next 2 seasons, following the loss of Panchev and some of their other star players. So, yeah, pretty bad for everyone, right? Panchev turned down the chance to leave Inter shortly after his arrival in 1992, following an offer from Manchester United and Alex Ferguson. But he turned it down, still believing at that time that he could fight for his place at the San Siro, and Ferguson signed Henrikh Cantona instead. How different things might have been. That is it for the 7 that I picked out. I was going to go through the rest of my candidates and explain either or both why I think that they were terrible for everyone involved and why they didn't make my 7, but I'm acutely aware that this video is already rather long and I would want to go into a fair amount of detail. So I will hold off on the possibility that you all love this video so much, loads of people watch it, and then I can make a part 2. So hopefully that is the case, but thank you all as ever for watching this video, and also, I should say a quick thank you for the channel recently reaching the milestone of 200 million views. That is quite a large number, so thank you all very much. Your support, as ever, for my work and for this channel is greatly appreciated. I really mean that. So, yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and are adding to that 200 million, and turn on notifications for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on social media on either Twitter or Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.